Why, hello, and welcome to the Doomcast. My name is Dan Empton. I'm your regular host. This is my interim co-host, Mike Albert.
Hello.
Trivia guru. Today, Mike and I are going to talk about Dan Slott's Spider-Man run. It's an incredible run.
Incredible. Oh man, that was silly.
The Amazing Spider-Man is one of Marvel's flagship titles. Since like 1963, so like
62, 63, yeah.
almost 60 years. Dan Slott has been writing The Amazing Spider-Man for the last 10 years.
Which is pretty good.
That's Herculean.
And not everything he's done has been an absolute hit, but he's done enough. And I've been reading Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man. It's the book I've been reading the longest since I think I was 10 years old. 30 years worth of issues.
That's significant. So that's like literally half of the entire title.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I have them, and I've read them, and some are great, and some aren't.
When I started picking Spider-Man up, late 2007, early 2008, they were doing a thing where they had just made it a weekly title. They would have Fred Van Lente was doing some issues.
Okay.
Mark Waid was doing some issues. Another guy, and then Dan Slott. And so they shifted it to Dan Slott.
Krasinski had a run on it for a while.
Yeah.
There was a storyline when him and Loki went and got a hot dog. It was a thing, right? And it was really entertaining to me.
Big highlights of Slott's run
Yes.
are what? Big Time?
Big Time is one of the big storylines. He went to work for Horizon. He had a
Max Modell.
Max Modell, and that was him. It was essentially him not working for the Bugle, not doing something. It was him using his scientific mind,
And
being a part of the team.
Yeah.
And that was interesting. And that one of the storylines is they had a mysterious other member of the scientific cabal that worked there, and you didn't know who it was, and it turned out in the end it was Michael Morbius.
Yeah.
And that was pretty good.
Like following that up was like Spider Island, where
Yes. Everyone got spider powers on the whole
in Manhattan.
And that reintroduced Kane. Kane became essentially a good-looking Peter Parker, because Kane in the 90s or whatever was a real weird clone.
He was like all mutated looking and stuff. He had long hair.
In this one, he turned into I look just like Peter, and I'm
Right.
Kane. Thanks.
Well, after Spider Island, they had a situation where at the ends of the earth, it was billed as the final Doc Ock storyline.
Which was incredibly good. And
I loved it.
I didn't see it coming. It essentially was a mind swap between Peter Parker and Doc Ock. Literally killed Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Or they killed the mind of Peter Parker.
Yeah, at the end of it. Because the whole upshot of it was Doc Ock's body was dying. Like he had like an untreatable cancer.
Right.
And he was basically living in like some sort of portable iron lung that was being moved around by his
Henchmen.
octopus legs and henchmen or whatever. And he was basically trying to get one last shot at Spider-Man.
And he flipped brains in using some science mumbo jumbo.
Figured out that it was Peter Parker,
Right.
and then was astounded that Peter Parker had been a student of his.
Right. Doc Ock takes over the life of Peter Parker and takes over being Spider-Man and becomes the superior Spider-Man.
Which lasted like 2 years.
There's going to be a lot of haters about this, but as a
There are.
lifetime Spider-Man reader, this was really good, guys. And it wasn't an Elseworlds or a What If. This was a real continuity storyline that they worked well. And yeah, eventually.
And he's on the Avengers the entire time too, which is even weirder.
And the fact that there are certain people that are like, what's up with you? You're being a real asshole here.
You're also very terse, and your manner of speaking is really weird and condescending.
He got all the memories, and then he realized, okay, I understand why he became Spider-Man. I get it now, and I can do it. But I can do it better. And that is why he's the superior Spider-Man.
And he kind of did.
And he did.
In a lot of ways.
He did in many ways.
He went and got Peter Parker's doctorate.
He started Parker Industries, which rivaled Stark Industries.
Yeah. Everybody in the Marvel Universe was basically using Parker tech rather than
Stark stuff.
Yeah. Parker Industries stuff.
And that was all Doc Ock,
He fell in love with Anna Maria Marconi.
which was awesome. The fact that, I mean, and if you don't know the storyline, she is a dwarf or a little person or whatever. But it was incredibly touching to
Yeah.
me. Like, you're rooting for him, and you're like, I kind of don't want to see Doc Ock fail.
Right.
I miss
And for
Peter.
her, because she's just this really genuine person.
Yes.
That genuinely is in love with
him.
Doc Ock.
Not Peter. In the end, Peter Parker did like an Obi-Wan Kenobi type thing where he was kind of like a ghost. He was hiding in the computer
And then
robot.
kind of managed to wrest power back, take
Yes.
his own body over.
He came
And-
back, but Doc Ock let him. He was like, at the very, when it finally transposed back to the way it was, the status quo, he was like, I can't do this as good as you. This, in my opinion, it turned Doc Ock from your B-plus villain to an A-list villain. His logic is sound in almost every single case, except for the one sliver that makes him a villain instead of a hero.
Right. It's his ego that's getting in the way of everything.
Exactly.
And then you find out that a backup of his personality
Is there.
from like a year before,
Right.
still exists, and then it takes over. So he's essentially back because nobody's dead in comics.
No one.
Then you get into the other arcs afterwards, which deal with this. He's a billionaire now.
And he had to make amends for all the stuff Doc Ock did. And I think the next big storyline after that was like the Spider-Verse,
Yeah.
where they went to all the alternate realities with all the different Spider-Men, and that's where you got the Spider-Gwen.
And the Japanese tokusatsu Spider-Man with a leopard on, which doesn't make any sense, and the Spider-Punk.
all the
those
stuff. The Captain Britain Spider-Man.
Oh yeah,
The
weird Spider-Man.
Pig Spider-Ham.
Yeah. You know, immediately following that with the clone conspiracy after the Spider-Verse, where the Jackal goes back to basically, like, the Rhino had been reformed.
Right.
He basically was like, I'm done with, a life of crime. I'm tired of it. Like, he had fallen in love with a woman and lost her. The Jackal resurrects her. The Jackal starts resurrecting all of these other different people, including Ben Reilly. And it really is them. They really have their memories.
But it ends up not being even the Jackal. It is Ben
Reilly.
Reilly. I forget. It got confusing.
Yeah,
there for a
it was
second.
like one of the clones of the Jackal
Yes.
brought Ben Reilly back.
So many times and killed him so many times that he kind of went crazy. And that, which brings us really close to what's happening now.
Which this is the point that I'm up to. I'm mostly current with Spider-Man. I know you're perfectly current. The last one that I read was Norman Osborn. Peter Parker put nanites into his system that prevent the goblin personality from ever manifesting again.
Right.
But he doesn't feel right without it.
Right.
And so he ends up trying multiple things. And he ends up going to it's not Kunlun, but there's like Master Hawk, Master Ox. He goes to learn the mystic arts. There's this emerald jewel in the middle of this pedestal. And you're like, go put your hand on it. It'll show you what your true potential is. He puts his hand on it, and it starts glowing. And the rest of the book,
It's really good.
it's great.
Yeah.
It shows him like learning to be basically like Doctor Strange and
Dr.
being
Doom
really
or-
good.
Yeah.
They take him to a room and give him the opportunity to put a mask on. Sort of go on this vision quest and defeat his own personal demons. And he chooses to put a goblin mask on instead. Then summons Spider-Man from wherever he is and tries to murder him. The
Yeah.
whole thing is a dream, and that's the test.
Yeah.
That was what his potential was. No time had passed. He had only just put his hand on the gem.
Right.
And the Masters were like,
No.
yeah, you can't, we know what you're going to use this for. You have to go. And he's like, all this showed me is that I can get the Green Goblin back.
I think the next storyline is called Code Red. When you think of Code Red, who would be probably the most famous Spider-Man villain?
When I think of Code Red, I think of Mountain Dew. And
That's not what I thought you were going to go, but okay, yes. At the very end of one of the comic books, Norman Osborn is there, and he opens up a package, and it is the Carnage symbiont.
Oh, wow.
The new Norman Osborn Carnage.
Oh, wow.
In the next
wow.
issue, it expels the nanites.
So he's like the Green Goblin and Red Carnage. So he's like Christmas Carnagoblin.
So now he knows that Peter is Spider-Man, Spider-Man is Peter, and he's powered as Carnage and a Green Goblin. and all bets are off. Bring out Spider-Man. Peter Parker, you know who he is. Go get him. I don't know how I feel about this because the Green Goblin was almost like your Lex Luthor type character, but now he's more like your Joker. You throw the Carnage in. Carnage is way more Joker than anything else. So,
but who is? Do you know who's taking Spider-Man over after Slott's done?
Yes.
Have they already announced that? I don't remember.
No, I don't know. He's going to Iron Man. Anyway, I love Spider-Man. It's the best. Read it every day.
Literally?
No, I think you should. But
I mean, hopefully, whoever ends up taking over, it's going to be big shoes to fill. So hopefully it's excellent. I mean, Spider-Man's one of the flagship titles at Marvel, so they're not going to put somebody on who's any slouch. They've had a lot of faith in Dan Slott, and I really he's easily etched out his place as being one of the greatest writers of that title of all time. I mean,
and to do full circle, to do all that, to do awesome stories, and then to hand it over to somebody else and be like, here's Spider-Man.
Here's my baby.
And to be back at square one with it is awesome because you have to kind of be, because that is the beauty of Spider-Man is he always starts at the bottom